coach all those calls?
I'm back. I'm better, folks. The Sha'Carri Richardson show lives on. Welcome to the day 2 instant reaction show. In case you just missed it, in case you're a Supporters Club member, didn't watch it live, Sha'Carri Richardson has won the women's 100 meters at the 2024 U.S. Olympic Trials, running 10.70, world leader, leading the Dennis Mitchell sweep as her training partners go 1, 2, 3. Sha'Carri rounded up 10.71. Melissa Jefferson 10.80. Twanisha Terry 10.89. That is your Olympic team. Tamari Davis, 4th, 10.91. Aaliyah Hobbs, 10.93. What a race for Sha'Carri. How about Ryan Krauser, the greatest shot putter in history, has not competed since World Indoors. He comes out and gets the job done. 22-4 in the first round. I think it was a 22-8 in the second round. He's going back to Paris, going for the unprecedented three-peat. And then men's 1,500. Yared Nuguse wins a heat. Cole Hocker wins a heat. What do we think of their tactics? Was anyone else nervous about Cole Hocker's tactics besides me? Eric Holt goes home devastated after running one of the worst tactical races I've seen in a long time. Some collegians make the final, and it's not necessarily the collegians you think. Colin Solomon is out, but LRC podcast guest Liam Murphy is in the men's 1,500 final. This is Let'sRun.com co-founder Robert Johnson. Not in Eugene, but I am joined by our A-staff writer, Jonathan Galtz, as well as co-founder, my twin brother, genetic eagle, Weldon Johnson. They are both in Eugene, joining us live. They may have to jump off to get Sha'Carri post-race. Guys, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Robert. Another great night of action at the trials. I love men's 1,500 semis. Those were fun. There was some drama in there. I wasn't worried about Hocker's tactics at all, but I guess we'll talk about that in a second. I think we have to start with Sha'Carri Richardson, Melissa Jefferson, TT Terry. This is probably gonna go down as the Dennis Mitchell sweep because he coaches all three of those athletes. Huge run for Sha'Carri. No, I wasn't surprised because she got a start. She didn't get a great start, but it wasn't abysmal and awful like her semi and her prelim. So she gets a better start and she runs 10.71, and that's celebrating beating her chest across the finish line. She looked fantastic. She backed up her status as the favorite and is clearly the Olympic favorite unless one of the Jamaicans shows something between now and Paris. So terrific run by her. Some redemption from 3 years ago after winning this race, but then getting DQ'd from positive marijuana tests. Then Melissa Jefferson, who her career has been rejuvenated. I mean, she's still pretty young. She's still only 23. She won this race 2 years ago, remember, but last year kind of struggled in her first year as a pro. Changes coaches to Dennis Mitchell in the offseason, joins Sha'Carri and Twanisha Terry, TT Terry's training group, runs a personal best tonight in the final, 10.80. And she was with Sha'Carri, until about 75 meters, and then Sha'Carri pulled away late, but she ran fantastic. Then TT Terry, who's made a team before, I mean, she got it done, third place, and that was my reaction, is the Dennis Mitchell sweep.
Great running all along. I've been rewatching it. Tamari Davis, because I was focused on Jefferson. I figured after the semis, the only one who was going to possibly challenge Sha'Carri was Melissa Jefferson. But Tamari Davis got out of. I mean, if Sha'Carri could start like them, oh my God, at the time she would run. It was definitely decent amount ahead of her, but it's just no question right now. The top end speed is so much better. It's like if Noah Lyles was a pure 100-meter runner with great top end speed, it'd be something like that. It's her top end is amazing, and I don't think anyone's going to be touching it this year, but I'm sure some Jamaican fans might want to beg to differ.
Yeah, I mean, peak Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, peak
Is she done?
Elaine Thompson-Herah, and one of those two could challenge Sha'Carri Richardson, but those women aren't here right now. I mean, Elaine Thompson-Herah is injured, and Shelly-Ann, she did race, but we saw last year, she was kind of in a battle. She's getting up there. She got on the podium last year, but I don't think we're ever going to see that peak version again. So this is Sha'Carri's event right now, and it's her title. It's going to it's her title to lose in Paris. That's the way I see it.
All right. I don't think I mentioned anything about the men's 100 heats. This is letsprint.com. But in the men's first round, Noah Lyles led the way, 992. Somebody wants to know how worried I am on the panic meter. I was watching with my 6-year-old son and my wife, and I was trying to explain to them like how I had predicted Noah wouldn't win the gold. My wife said that's 6. So you're hoping for him to not to win. I'm like, no, either way, I do well. He wins, it's good for track and field. He doesn't win, it's good for me. But I thought he looked sensational. Christian Coleman had a very good start, 999. Lyles won 992. Bednarik was good, 10 flat. Courtney Lindsay, 10 flat. I thought Fred Curley, he was wearing a Nike shoes, and I'm trying to think of the top he was wearing. I've already forgotten it. But he looked pretty good, 10:03 in his heat. So it's going to be fun to have those big names, the big guys in the men's 100. But yeah, how worried am I? I think Noah Lyles looks sensational. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't win this race. I'd like to see Curley get on the team. I think if he can, sneak onto this team here, he could be a potential gold medalist because he hasn't raced very much. So let's see, what happens moving forward. But enough sprint talk, guys.
Let's see if it starts.
Let's go to the 1500s. And
we always need sprint talk. They're actually doing a Sha'Carri press conference. They said they weren't going to do press conferences, but maybe because it was asleep. I think it's a good move. And then, yeah, that'll be good. Hopefully Sha'Carri will talk to the media a bit.
So yeah.
I have one beef. People are going to not like this, but I have one beef, John. It didn't bug me yesterday. Sha'Carri doesn't have to walk through the mix zone. Every athlete at the trial should be treated exactly the same. No one has to speak, but if they're allowed to skip, even after the semis or something, then every athlete should be allowed to skip. Not a big deal, but we can't because what if she could just stand underneath the stadium or something like that? That doesn't happen, but
no,
it's a bad precedent to start for anyone. The only other thing is sprint talk.
No, it's
Christian
just
Coleman still doesn't want to talk to us, but I'm 100% fine with athletes not wanting to talk to us. Just maybe if the agent would let us know in advance, but small minor points. But
it's not a minor point.
Fairness, that is the thing, Robert. They should if Curley wants, he doesn't like talking to the media. But it might make him uncomfortable to have to walk through here. So everyone should experience the same thing. I'm sorry.
It's not a minor point. It shows you the lack of unprofessionalism of USATF. It's not a professional organization. Max Siegel's done nothing to get the quota reallocation spots for the track trials, and they don't treat this like a pro sport. I mean, I guess it's hard because they don't really pay the athletes to make them do too much stuff, but they should. But I don't want to go into that. Let's talk about the. By the way, I didn't say anything about the women's 400 hurdles. There's 4 collegians in the final, but one of them is not Arkansas star Effiong. She's out. So that was pretty surprising. I'm trying to figure out what she ran here. Rosie Effiong, only 50.92.
She ran about a second slower than she ran at NCAAs. She rode 50 seconds at NCAAs. So that was definitely a surprise, her not advancing. But let's talk about the men's 1500, right? We said the 100, the men's 1500. This is where our bread is buttered. Let's break that down. I mean,
okay.
To me, I'm incredibly excited for this race because I think Yared Nuguse and Cole Hocker. Yared Nuguse tied the trials record. Cole Hocker looked amazing the last 100. Looked like he wasn't even trying. Everyone else is kicking their brains out to make the final. I think this is going to be a real showdown. I think these two are cut above everyone else in the field. I can't wait for the final.
It's going to be amazing. You're going to have Hocker and Nuguse like we thought. I mean, the 2 heavy favorites. You've got the under 20 record holder, Hobbs Kessler. You've got Cooper Tier, Joe Wascom, Nathan Green, Elliott Cook, the hometown Oregon guy. Craig Engel sneaks in there as the final time qualifier. Liam Murphy and Ethan Strand. I mean, I basically mentioned everybody except for Vincent Ciotti. Henry Wynn has looked quite good to me. He trains with Josh Kerr, the world champion. So I think that basically I could see almost everybody in that field making the team under some scenario. 2 or 3 guys, not really, but I'd put that Ciotti, Ingles, and really just those 2, I guess. The college kids, Murphy and Strand. But Murphy and Strand were 2-3 in their heat. So let's talk about it in case you didn't watch it. Heat 1 was the fastest, was the top 5 made it there. 7 came from the second heat. And you had Cole Hocker, this is the finish, 337.89. Liam Murphy, Ethan Strand, Cooper Tier, Joe Wascom, all 338.29 for Wascom. Then Sam Prakel is the first one out at 338.50. Hauser's out. Eric Holt next to last. He's out. But this heat was kind of interesting. It goes off, and yesterday, Hocker had led this thing from the front and did a lot of work and ran fast. And I'm like, that's just stupid. He needs to try to save some energy. And today he practiced different tactics. He basically did what Ingebrigtsen normally does. He kind of ran in the back. I don't think he quite does it as smoothly as Ingebrigtsen for the first 200, and then moved up towards the front at 300. But coming off, and the pace was, somewhat pedestrian. In this one, it was, let's see if I can find the splits here. I think they were just under 60 seconds. How do you find the lap by lap splits here, guys? Here we go. Kessler was 57.5, 156. Oh, excuse me. That's Hocker was 59.5, 2 flat 0.5, 258, 337. So big finish. But John says he wasn't worried. He was sensational at the end, but coming off the turn, he's kind of boxed in on the rail. He had to make an inside move. Now, there was not enough guys. It wasn't like there was a brick wall on the right. He could have gone to the right and gotten out. But I'm like, dude, you don't want to be putting yourself – you're that much better than all these other guys. Don't be that stupid. Like, he better not be in that spot in the final, John, because it's just – when you're better than everybody else, you have to run extra ground. You have to – you need to be a little bit more cautious than this. And he's very good and very comfortable at running on the rail, but that was crazy to me. But he does look sensational. So – can he beat Nuguse? I think he can. Yes. But
real quick. So I asked Hocker, I was like, he said he felt great. I was like, were you worried with 100 to go? He said, usually I'm not. I wasn't really worried. I thought it would open up. He's like, but I had enough. I knew I could jump outside. So he felt very confident either way he'd make it. And then
look, as a former mid-distance coach, I used to always say it always opens up, but it still made me nervous because he's just so much better than everyone else. You don't want to risk it in the semis.
I agree with you, Robert. Maybe there is a little worry there, just like, oh, you don't want to take any chances, but he ended up being fine. I do think, I don't know if Hocker will beat Nuguse, but the interesting thing is, I think Nuguse, from what he said today, Weldon, it sounds like he's planning on running pretty fast in the final, right? Because he took it out today. It sounded like he wanted to take out the prelim as well, and Dathan Ritzenheim said, no, you're not going to be leading all 12 laps in Eugene, but I'm expecting a fast final from Nuguse.
So, Rod, you can take us through the splits here in a second because I don't have it in front of me. But I said, hey, Yared, yesterday sort of Cole went quick, or you didn't push the pace. Cole did, and today you sort of ran your more traditional race. Why the difference in strategy? And he said, Dathan talked to me before round one, said, hey, man, like, look, you don't have to do the normal strategy. You don't have to lead 12 laps here at the trials. Why don't you try something else? And then Yared, this interview's up on YouTube. You guys check it out. Yared said, I talked to Dathan, and we're like, let's just go back to the old strategy. It sounds like he didn't like it, and he put on a master class today. And then the question is, can they hit the Olympic standard of
33.5? I think they can. I think Nuguse can run faster than that from the front and will. And if he does that, the third Olympian, if it's one of those college kids like Joe Wascom, who doesn't have the standard, it might take that to make the team. So it would be a trials record, but we already saw someone almost break the trials record in the prelims and then tie it in the semis. So I think Nuguse and Hocker certainly can make it a lot faster than what we've seen in previous U.S. finals.
Because I said to Nuguse, you think it'll go under the standard? And he said, I don't think we'll all be under it. And then he said something like, it's not like I'm just going to run 330 or 331 and drag everyone underneath it. Then I said, well, some of these guys need it. They might help you push the pace. And he doesn't sound fearful of anything on a fast pace. But Robert, give us the splits on him, because I mean, not many guys can run that. I think there aren't many guys in America right now who can really run a 332, 333.
From the front, exactly. 57.11, 156.2, 253.7, 334.09. He wasn't all out, as Chip Time Gun Time says on YouTube. He wasn't definitely not going all out in the time. But when I was watching this race, I thought, wow, it's going to be tough for these guys to don't have a standard. And we need to figure this out between now and the final if the Washington guys need it, if the rankings were helped by these semis at all. Because I just was watching this, and I was like, we're talking about who's going to push the second lap, and you really need it to be like 155 at 800 to make sure that you're going to get that. And these 150, like Nuguse might be in the front, but he can do that. He could easily go run I think he could go run 331 from the front, but it's kind of risky. So why do it? And I think the ideal scenario for him is if you kind of run a race like today. And it's actually a little bit better if it's not an all-out time trial for him, because you go in the front, you run a 156 or 157. The guys behind you are still sort of fighting for position a little bit. They're wasting energy because you're having to lead. You're having to break the wind, so you're losing a little energy. Make the guys behind you not just a pure time trial they can draft off you. So I think that would be smart. So I think that's going to be a little bit difficult to see this 333. I mean, would it shock me if they're 333.5? No, but am I guaranteeing it? Not at all. But let's talk about the first heat just in general. And the big news here was that unsponsored Empire Elites Eric Holt next to last, and he almost did beat Tier last week. I mean Hocker, Hobbs Kessler last week. Now he's going home devastated. And what happened? He ran just a completely stupid race. He's a bigger guy. He didn't look comfortable on the outside. I've watched the race a second time, but I didn't add it up. He was in lane 2 for most of the race. And not only that, he was making so many micro moves. I always say you've got one move in the 800. You've probably got about 2 in the 1500. He had 3 or 4. It's just up and back, up and back. And when it came time to kick for one of the top 5 spots, he just had nothing and went in the back direction. And if you want to go back and watch this race again, check the official thread on Let's Run, and you can find it. By the way, if you're just joining us, this is normally a Supporters Club only podcast, but we're going live from the trials. Join the Supporters Club today. Get a bonus podcast, a free t-shirt, letsrun.com/subscribe. And while you're listening, go to betterrunningshoes.com, betterrunningshoes.com, our new and improved shoe review site. It's amazing. It's got it's like the Yelp of shoe reviews, but it also has pricing and stuff like that, betterrunningshoes.com. But if you go back and watch this race, and on the official thread, there's a guy who's got the USA Network. You can just rewind it. And I've already done that. Liam Murphy, the collegian from Villanova, he ran just a master. He just wasted no energy. Like Holt was wasting tons of energy. Liam Murphy is in the back on the rail the entire race. He's next to last with 200 meters to go, and he passes everybody in the field except for Cole Hocker. He literally went from 11th to 2nd in the span of about 120 meters. It was super impressive. And this was a slower heat, so that's kind of going to be hard to do. You kind of need a tactical race for that to work out a little bit. But I do think that a couple guys in the final who are real long shots, maybe a Craig Ingles, although Craig Ingles needs the time, but a number of guys who think, okay, I'm probably not going to make this team, just get on the rail in the back and waste no energy. And you've got one move and just shove it down the last 200 and see how many guys you can get. Everybody's tying up. Maybe you get third, and you got to run extra ground on the last turn. But other than that, you're saving ground. Everyone else is running 3 laps of extra ground. You're running 1 turn. So I just thought he ran a masterclass race, and he was really, really pumped to be making it. I mean, he looks over at Ethan Strand of North Carolina, and they had this big smile on his face. They make it ahead of the NCAA champion, ahead of Cooper Tier. They're 338.08. Both ran 338.08. Tier was 338.26. Wascom 338.29. Wasn't overly impressed by Tier, but again, I think a fast final is what he wants. Time trial, he's run 12:54. That's what he wants to do. This doesn't have to be the best 1500 meter guy. This can just be a pure time trial. That plays into Jakob Ingebrigtsen's strengths. That plays into Cooper Tier's strengths. I really think it probably should be, Nuguse or Hocker for first, and then we're going to probably have Kessler or Tier for third, because if it's a time trial and it's fast, I don't see these other guys beating them. But, I was impressed by Wascom and the Washington guys in the first round. I'm like, oh, maybe they can run fast. But I think some of them are a little bit tired out maybe from that fast prelim yesterday, because wasn't Wascom in Hocker's heat yesterday?
Not sure about that. I have to look it up. But, I mean, Liam Murphy, he essentially said, I was like, how so good here, not, at NCAAs. He's like, I put too much pressure at NCAAs. I thought I had to win it. And he said today, like, the strategy sounded like, well, let's just sit on the rail. Don't waste energy. Masterclass. And also, I think some of the veterans, even like a Cooper Tier, I can't believe it. The crazy thing is, I think a fast race benefits him too. But he won here in like a super slow race 2 years ago, which is unbelievable. But they start from scratch in the final. So whether you were fourth or fifth in your prelim today, it doesn't really matter. I mean, even a guy like Craig Ingles, I think he looked so great yesterday. It was a wake up call. He said the sport's changed. Well, he gets dragged. Fortunately, he's seventh in his heat and gets to go because it's faster. Well, somehow, like, I'm mad at something that's happening, but you start from scratch on Monday. So it's going to be interesting, especially with the pace. I think for the third spot, I right now, I do go with, I guess, Kessler over Tier, but I mean, what are their PBs right now? They're probably pretty similar. So could someone else sneak in that third spot? Of course. But Hocker and Nuguse are definitely the favorites in a fast race. If it's windy or something like that, it's the only thing I could see throwing it a little bit. But other guys need the standard, but I don't think will they do anything to help Nuguse is my one question for that final.
If I was another coach, I would consider taking the first lap. I'm worried who's going to push that second lap. If I'm Nuguse, I'm not pushing it. I'm waiting until 800 and shoving it down there. But it's interesting to note. I did look up the heats from yesterday, and it's like, do you really want to run fast in the first round? Like, I don't know. The only guy that made it out of the 7 of the 9 guys that were in Cole Hocker's heat, one of them made the final. Nathan Green, Luke Hauser's out, Sam Prakel's out, Eric Holt's out, Wes Porter, Brett Myers, Sam Gilman, Lucas Bonds, all eliminated. So, I do think it might take you something out. Now they get a rest day, so it shouldn't be a big deal before the final.
But I mean, that's a great point, Robert. It's really something to look at. I mean, we're probably, thankful for Hocker yesterday, but they all got done in today. And I think, the media the day after,
let's go through this. What was really that shocking? Like, name by name. I mean, Cole Hocker, yeah, we expected him to make it. Cooper Tier made it. Joe Waska made it. I would have thought Prakel would have made it. He got a little bit lucky being in the first heat. He's out. Murphy and Strand are definitely surprises because, they weren't amazing at NCAAs, and now they're in the final. Strand was 9th in the final at NCAAs, and Murphy was 11th. But they might end up. That's when they might end up at USA's, which isn't that crazy. And then in the second heat, I think the only surprise to me was, it's a fast race, so I wouldn't expect Josh Thompson to do anything. Colin Solomon just looked tired at the end of the season, 340 for 11th. Kind of surprising that he's not the collegian. I was wondering sort of if Elliot Cook, could make this team. I was been very impressed with him all year, the Oregon faithful. I think if it was tactical, he was an 800 guy. He would have a shot at this team. But I just think in a time trial, this is 3:34.5 for him. It's probably a PB, right? It's got to be, right? Yeah, today, like, I think he's going to be in trouble in a time trial. So,
yeah, how much more meat is on the bone? I mean, Hocker in 2021 just took everything to a new level. As a teenager, or was he 20? No, teenager, right? And PBing and shit, Olympic final. But that's just a lot to ask. It's due to the trials after a long collegiate season. Colin Solomon went out today. I spoke to him. He's pretty much a non-factor. And she said, like, look, all in all, I did a good season. He had the collegiate leader probably till today, right? And steps in the right direction. But competing at this level, or the level where the top Americans are, because they're top of the world pretty much, it's not easy. So it's why the 1500 is going to be the best. I think the best distance final because these guys are so good. Oh, well, I've been singing the praise of the 5K too, but it's because a lot of these guys I hope come back in it. So,
well, nobody ran, Solomon ran 3:33.96 this year, so no collegian has run faster, so far. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's weird because I would love to see this race. I don't think it's going to be tactical because of the dumb quota reallocation. I guess World Athletics can say, but it's good that it's not tactical. People have to run for the fast, but it would be there's not. Well, other than like the top 2 or 3, I don't think there's that much of a gap in talent between all these other guys. It'd be fascinating to see like who gets 3rd or 4th in those races. But I think with the time trial, it's going to be fewer people that have a chance. But look, I think a lot of guys are going to want to be. I just wouldn't force it. I think if you run free, but it's these guys like a Waska, like is he feeling pressure? Like, okay, I'm a pro now. I made the team last year. I've got to get the standard. Because the reality is, I don't know. Like, if you end up, I don't know how many they take. Let's say they take 45. You end up 48th. Could you go if 3 people don't declare? It's just the whole thing is so depressing. But it's like I don't want to have this Drew Hunter fake race where it's like doesn't mean anything. So, they need to find out if they need the standard. If they do, they need to go for it. So.
Yeah, I think. I mean, for the system to change, we need a bunch of. Maybe they won't care about the USA trials, but if more athletes, like, it'd been better for the system if Drew Hunter had been 3rd yesterday instead of Nico Young, and people were like, hey, this sucks. This is national TV. It sucks. If tomorrow, if someone without the standard got 3rd, can't go to the Olympics. But it's like quibbling with the hardcore fans. But I actually heard people in Eugene though saying, like, talking to like people on the street, and they're watching the broadcast, or they're like, wait, what about the Olympics? All they want to know is get top 3, make the Olympics. So for the casual fan, I think it does put them off a bit. Or even if we know, like, this case isn't a known scenario, but like in races where the main contenders all are in the ranking points and going to get in, the person watching at home doesn't understand that at all. So something to improve. There's always stuff to improve in the sport. Should we? Well, I'm interesting to see what John gets back here from Sha'Carri, but I think we should also preview a little bit tomorrow.
Somebody wants to know if Craig Engels will be ending up the Drew Hunter of the trials. I don't think Craig will be battling it out for top 3 like Drew Hunter was, but Craig Engels very well could get in on the standard because he's right now. On ranking, he's ranked 47th, and they take 45, so he's 14 points off. So with the bonus points for finishing 3rd, if it's a fairly fast race, because the race that's getting replaced for him is a 3:36 race. So he actually probably ran faster than that today. So, what did he run today? He ran 3:35.08. So his ranking's already going to go up a little bit. But if he runs a similar time today with the ranking points, to be honest, he'd probably be in the top 45. So good news if you're a Craig Engels fan, on that front. But I meant to say one thing before we talk about tomorrow about yesterday's race. On the regular podcast on Tuesday, I'm talking about women's 5,000 here. I said, Parker Valby, you better be signed to a deal before you step foot in this track. And then she didn't sign a deal. She's still running in the Florida kit. And I thought, wow, her dad has taken over her agent status. He must have a lot of faith that she's in like 14:30 shape. And then when she looked very mortal, looks like she's not going to make the team, I thought, how much money did she lose? I mean, $500,000? I mean, easily like $100,000 a year over 4 years straight. I mean, I guess he gambled, so she's definitely going to make it. They're going to pay up, $750,000. And maybe these 2 companies are like, okay, she's popular, but how good is she going to be as a pro? So it's kind of interesting playing chicken here. The shoe execs may be winning this, but also they have a limited budget. So even, I guess it only takes one fool to overpay, but that was just one thought. But yeah, tomorrow, for the schedule, Sunday, obviously the men's 100 with Noah Lyles is going to be the biggest event. Hopefully he gets there. Obviously, if the semis don't want to jinx him, but you're going to have men's 100 semis, then women's 800 semis, men's 400 semis. You're going to have the women's 400 final and the men's steeplechase final into the tap, and then the men's 100 final. So, it's going to be exciting to see how does Athing Mo look with the injury. She, I thought she looked fine. Was a little bit worried. we're going to get the women's 400 final, but then the men's steeple final. I got Evan Jager to me. That's what it's about. Can he make another team? We'll find out. And then men's 100 doesn't get any better than that, to be honest. The drama. I'm always watching it now. Is it, well, do you do this or just for my coaching background? Like I was just so fearful of the false starts. I'm like, don't false start, don't false start, don't false start. Like when you watch 100, are you thinking that in your head too?
100%. And then you kind of, I feel like there's an echo in the state. I'm like, oh, did somebody false start? And like more so for the women, I'm just like, please, Sha'Carri, make through this. Yeah, the men's 100. I mean, the first round doesn't mean too much. I mean,
David,
like the high school kid Christian Miller had a horrible start, still makes it because everybody was making it through essentially. But I
didn't mention him. He was terrible.
Really bad start though, because he ran 9.95 last weekend. So, I mean, the good thing is he gets another shot tomorrow. I mean, the way I do the 100 right now, Carly, I thought he looked good. So, Carly had the Oakley top on Nike spikes. I think Lyles and Curly are the first two spots. And then, is it Coleman or Bednarik are the most obvious candidates for the third spot, but it's a little more up in the air. Some people may not be quite as bullish on Curly and say, oh, Coleman, you should have Coleman in that second spot. But ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Galt is back after speaking. I don't know if you got to speak to her, but at least observing the Sha'Carri Richardson Dennis Mitchell press conference.
Yeah, not really much to report. It was pretty tame. I didn't get the opportunity to ask a question. Sha'Carri did say when she was beating her chest across the finish line, hard work pays off. That was what was going through her mind. And other than that, I mean, I'm struggling to recall a specific moment. She talked about her personal growth from 2021 when she won and was disqualified. That she's got a better understanding of her gift, was what she said. But other than that, I can't really say we got a whole lot of insight.
Well, I think there's some insight there. I mean, 2021 Sha'Carri was so raw, right? And we saw that the next year, I think, even when she didn't make it out of the first round.
No, I feel like there was an injury there that we just never heard about because no one got really a chance to ask. But I don't know. I mean, maybe there might have been some after effects from 2021, but I wouldn't be surprised if she was injured at some point.
I mean, and also, she probably wasn't going to win the Olympic final anyway in 2021. This may sound terrible, but I've heard people say, essentially, you think overall it's good for her career, the suspension. I mean, that sounds horrific, but, like, she became such a name because of that.
But she was already a name. Remember coming out of the trials, Michelle Obama was tweeting about her before the suspension. Like, it was such a big deal because she was this media darling. So, I mean, maybe it ratcheted things up to an even higher level, but she was already a huge deal even before she was suspended.
I take it actually. Maybe she would have won the Olympic 100 meter.
No. That was peak Elaine Thompson-Herah. Elaine Thompson-Herah ran 10.54 pre that year. Sha'Carri was not beating her in Tokyo. She probably wasn't beating Shelly Ann either. I think she might have got the bronze ahead of Sharika.
Look, my question for you, John, what did she run 3 years ago?
Headwind, right? She ran 10.8 in the final into a headwind, right? And she ran a windy 10.64 in the semis. I think it was Winday did. But the biggest difference, Sha'Carri is at a similar level to where she's at right now, back in 2021, but her rivals are nowhere close to where they were in 2021. That's the difference.
I'm with Weldon. I think her getting suspended makes her more popular. I think it was good for her. But I guess she already was big back then.
But
more thing,
Robert, my casual track and field people knew her. But, like, when I ask casual friends if they know track, I say no a while, so I don't say no. I'm like, Sha'Carri's like, yeah, the marijuana woman. Like, maybe that changed slightly the identity about her. But, like, I think the vast majority of people, like, they can relate to someone who got it wronged, essentially. And I think a lot of people felt the punishment did not fit the crime. But now it's really about Sha'Carri. I mean, she just delivers on every stage now. It's like, it's about Sha'Carri, the sprinter. It's just put together. I guess it'd be helpful if we knew a little more what happened in 2022. But, like,
since the start of 2023, every big upstage she's had, she has delivered. She delivered at USA's last year. She ran the best race of her life in the World Championship final, and that was after a bit of a stumble in the semis. The only weakness she has at the moment is that her rounds, both in Budapest and in Eugene this week, the start has been very poor, almost stumbling out of the blocks. And I'm wondering if she's just taking a safety, and if she's not trying to she's just making sure there's no chance of a full start. And she knows even if she doesn't have a great start, she's just going to run everyone down. And then the final tonight looked like, she was a little better, and then she runs a lot faster. So I am curious about whether it's an approach that she's actually being deliberately cautious in the rounds, or that her start does actually have flaws and, she's executing better in the final.
Just joining us, this is Let'sRun.com, live from the trials. With Jonathan Galt, a staff writer. I'm Weldon Johnson, the Drew Hunter of the podcast, the fourth placer at USA's in the 10K. I've done it twice though. Drew's only done it once. I don't know if technically, I'm not sure the Olympic trials count as the USA's. I never did it at USA Championship.
That's 2019 USA Indoor 2-mile champion Drew Hunter, king of the B heat.
From the B heat, even more impressive.
Yeah.
And Robert Johnson joining us remotely, the mouth of Let'sRun.com. And if you're enjoying this, but you don't want to stay up late on the East Coast, you want this as a podcast, join today, Let'sRun.com/subscribe. This is actually the BetterRunningshoes.com post-trials podcast. Get your shoes there. Oh, and while you're listening, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, because then you'll be notified of all of our podcasts. So hit subscribe right now. Everybody do it. Pause. Count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, good. Carry on, Robert.
Yeah, the rest of the world is just trash in the 100 meters. I mean, we had 3 women today run 10 under 10.9, 10.71, 10.8, 10.89, and no one in the world. The next, well, I guess Julian Affridge run 10.78, and Rosemary Chukwuma, who was the third placer in NCAAs, has run 10.88. So the top Jamaican this year has only run 10.91. So, it should be interesting there. One thing that was interesting to me about sprints on the men's side, Walden, you'll like this. So Coleman has refused to talk to Walden repeatedly and he hates talking about the past. So they interviewed him. Lewis Johnson did on NBC, and obviously he wants to talk to him about not making the team, but he didn't want to phrase the question that way. So it isn't important to come back, and he asked him 3 times. He's just like, well, if it's every kid's dream to win the Olympics, but I thought Lewis purposely did not sort of ask him anything about the drug suspension or missing the last Olympics. He tried to ask what's it like to miss the last Olympics and come to this Olympics, but without mentioning that he missed the last Olympics because he missed 3 drug tests. So, we talk about catering to the athletes, even the NBC guys catering to them.
Well, I mean, I can see why you don't want to. There's a time and a place where you don't want to bring stuff up, but Coleman just said, he said nicely, not like that. Well, you're here today, and I said, fine, I'll leave. It was nice, and then I started walking off, and I give John credit. John just said, well, can we know why? And then Coleman then just left, and it's just I don't know. We've reached out to his agent, who was nice about it, but I don't know, or maybe just say, hey, give us a heads up every time.
All right.
I don't know. We don't need to harp on it.
Do we want to make steeple predictions? I don't think we need to go on for much longer. People need to go. They don't have time to listen to an hour and a half podcast every morning on their way to work. Plus, there's no work tomorrow. It's a Sunday. I think I'm going Rooks, Bohr, Jaeger. Not changing anything.
My heart says Jaeger for the 3rd spot. My head says Matthew Wilkinson, because he's been running very well this year. He looked pretty good in the prelims. The interesting thing is Wilkinson said after his semi, he was asked about Evan Jaeger. He's like, oh yeah, I was at USA's a couple of years ago, and I saw him, and I bumped into him, and I was like, oh man, just so I grew up watching some of your races, and he thought that the race where he ran 8 flat in the fall in Paris, he's like, well, then he was awed with it. He basically said Evan Jaeger's my hero, and now he has to probably beat his hero to make the Olympic team tomorrow, and he's got a legit chance to do that. So Jager looked all right. I feel good about Bohr and Rooks. I do think they're still on the team, but man, it's a tough call. I picked Jager in the prediction contest, so I'm going to stick with him. But yeah, if he doesn't make it, I think Wilkinson's the guy.
Pulling out the people here. Wow, you guys are saps. Pretty sure I didn't pick Jager. I just tried for once to go. Well, usually I go with my heart. Usually I'm the sentimental one. I mean, okay, Wilkinson looked great. I'm trying to see if anyone else who I pick ahead of Jager. And Jager did get ahead of Bernard Keeter.
Yassine Sado, whose high school coach, is staying at the Let'sRun.com headquarters. People who make fun of us for saying you put up these threads asking, oh, can I get a ride to Eugene? Or does anyone want the spare bedroom? Well, people actually do read those threads, and they're very nice Let's Run readers who sometimes take us up on it. One of them was a guy named Joey, who is Yassine. He coached Yassine Sado of the UVA in high school, and now he's in the final of the Olympic trials running tomorrow night. So pretty cool.
And
look,
I think
we like the people. Unlike Facebook, unlike Twitter, we want to hear from you. We're kind of like Elon Musk. He likes the citizens to have a role. We like our visitors to have a role. Go to the forum every day. Your voice is just as important there as mine. 844 Let's Run, 844-538-7786. We listen to you. John, I don't know if I have permission. I won't say it, but just if you want to reveal the name, you can. But on last night's show, live in the chats, someone told me, oh, you guys need to get such and such for the show. And I think they thought it was a joke that we couldn't pull this off. I'm like, oh, I can easily do that. And it appears this very famous person will be on the show later in the week. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I don't know if we revealed the name, Weldon, do we? I mean, let's just say we have a very special guest joining us on Monday night, and you're not going to want to miss Monday night's show after the men's 1500.
No, folks. John Galt is not dating Taylor Swift. She's not going to be on the show. I'll say that. It's not Taylor Swift.
Also, I may make an audible here. I think we need the Let's Run meetup to be Monday night before the 1500, John.
That makes sense to me. Pre-game the thing.
Didn't we do that at the?
And okay. This works out perfectly. So the men's 1500, the meet, that's the first and final of the night. It's 5:47. But there's a men's 110 meter hurdles first round, 5:05. We have a Let's Run tradition of staying late, talking to people at a pre-race meetup or some event like that. The Brojos will miss it, and someone breaks a world record in the hurdles. So this is perfect. If Weldon somehow stays in McMenamins ahead of time, we're going to see a world record from Grant Holloway in the 110 hurdles prelims, guaranteed. Because we saw it at 2022 Worlds with Toby Amason, and we saw it at Millrose this year, Devin Charlton.
Yeah, I forgot about the second one. All right, so that's it. Supporters Co members who are listening to the podcast, Monday at McMenamins.
We'll
3:30 or 3 o'clock?
Let's say 3.
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock McMenamins.
You know you're getting old when you're going to the bar at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
The other option is do it after the meet, but I got it right because we've got a women's 5,000 final, women's 800, men's 1,500, and we have our guest on the show. And this person is so popular, he would be mobbed if he was in McMenamins. Like people, I don't think it would be possible to just have him on the show. Maybe
we should get him to come to the party too beforehand.
All right, but for the 25 and under crowd, including the European models, we will have the meetup. We'll have maybe a day meetup for the older people, and then I'll go out with the young crowd. John, I'll set them up with the Parisians that I know there. Brother John wants to know what was the big news we were going to reveal. This was a few days ago. I think I put it on the Supporters Club. We have a private forum for Supporters Club members. I said, you just want to be coming to Let's Run every day. And I had heard about the Arian Knighton news. I wasn't sure if he was getting banned or if he was going to get off. I just knew that he had tested positive. So that was the news that I said was going to be breaking. So anyways, good day 2. Guys, don't stay up too late. I did it again last night. I got home and I just stayed up for an extra hour for no reason, reading the boards and having fun. Update the contest.
The Let's Run jinx, is it over? I mean, podcast, the interns had Liam Murphy on the podcast, and I thought they jinxed him at NCAAs, but maybe they just put him in the Olympic trials final.
Yeah, can I just say one of my favorite moments from tonight was Liam Murphy and Ethan Strand, the two collegians, crossing the finish line, both of them knowing they just made the final of the Olympic trials in the 1500, and just like on cloud nine, hugging each other, celebrating. I mean, that's the great thing about this sport, man, is you do these cool things and those moments and you're just together. And like, I don't think they'll ever forget that. They'll always be like, hey, that was the other guy I made the final with. No matter how they run in the final, that was just cool to see.
East
So,
Coasters, as they said.
one question I have here, Brother John's asking about Centro retiring. Walden I was kind of saying, it's a little disappointed he didn't run. Walden had it best. He should have gone to the start line and then waved to the crowd. Can I start like an online petition, or is Mike Riley's, who's involved in the trials out there? This guy needs to be honored, or he needs to fire the gun for the final or something. Hold the tape. Like I actually think they should line him up for the final and then let him do a ceremonial false start or something. Like Oregon faithful. Like, John, has there been a men's Olympic gold medalist at 50 before Centrowitz? Who was the last man to win a gold medal 1500 or above? Was it 64
For the United States? That would be
Yes,
Frank Shorter in 1972.
on the track.
Oh, on the track, you'd have to go to the late Bob Schull and Billy Mills.
Yeah, so it had been almost 60 years.
Yeah, well, 52 years
Yeah.
from
All right,
Tokyo to
put in the
Rio.
comments. How should the honor center at these trials? He's an Oregon guy too. You can, like, it's just a no-brainer to do that.
Could he fire the gun?
Yeah. Can any
Did Otto Bolden tell me today they have some? I didn't hear what he's going to say. Anyone in the comments who's watching NBC, I was going to go back and rewind it. He said something about when they fire the gun. I thought he said there's like a computer that fires it now, so that you can't time it. He said something about set, the difference between set and gun, and it's different than a college race. Anyone hear what he said?
We're at the meet, so I can't tell you what Otto Bolden's been saying, but I will say that for Centro, I think the obvious solution, they give them the medals right after the race. Have him at the finish line handing out the medals to the people who made the Olympic team. Or the top three. The top three, I mean, the third place might not make the Olympic team depending on how the race goes, but that's what I would say. Have him as the medal guy.
And I said I was against special privileges. If it's your final trials, they can just put you in the race.
No, that's ridiculous.
By the way, I know the diehards don't like the NBC coverage. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. I like the NBC coverage when they do like Peyton Manning went to Ryan Croucher's like home and was like in a shot put ring with him and like watching tape with them. It was kind of funny. So it made it feel like a big deal. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I demanded that you guys interview Noah Lyles and ask him, why is Snoop Dogg watching the race with his mother?
Well, he basically said he'd never met Snoop Dogg and he didn't seem to know all that much about it. But my guess is Snoop Dogg's kind of doing NBC coverage of the Olympics, and Noah, they're promoting him a lot because obviously he's a huge star. So they knew they usually have cameras on Noah Lyles' mom, and they figured that would be a good person for him to sit with. So that's my guess. It's an NBC thing.
Wait, so our society is just such a thing that we're obsessed with celebrity that's NBC just pays Snoop Dogg to watch the Olympics, and then we think, oh, it's cooler because Snoop Dogg's there.
Yes,
I did think. Well, I guess I plead guilty because I fell for it. I saw Snoop Dogg there, and who else? I saw Peyton Manning on the TV. I'm like, oh wow, this is a big event. By the way, speaking of big event, how was the crowd tonight?
Crowd was good. I mean, the problem is this backstretch. Whenever the sun's beating down there's just no one sitting there. But the home stretch was almost there. I mean, I saw a couple pockets of empty seats, but it was almost entirely full. It was a good atmosphere. It was just a deserving atmosphere of the Olympic trials final. It was fitting.
The home stretch is full. It's still a horrible TV look, and there must be enough empty seats somewhere that the entire backstretch can go somewhere and watch. So, I mean, like,
well,
so
yeah, where
for
are
me,
those
for
people,
example,
you know?
John, where'd you watch the final? There is really no media area at this place to watch. You're supposed to go to the top row, and there's a standing desk. John, and every time we've not had a problem. I walked up for the women's 100-meter final. This is, probably like 30 yards past the finish. I don't have to go to the media stuff. I found an empty seat and sit in it. So even that side's not 100% full. Is that where you were, John?
No, I went up to the media tribune. Well, media tribune, quote unquote, but that's where I watched it from.
So much better
Hocker
crowd
strategy
tonight.
should be simple. Sit on the goose. Same strategy as NCAA's 3 years ago. I agree. It makes me. It's going to be fun. Just like it's the drama, but the strategy, and we get to see, like, can Nuguse pull off what Ingebrigtsen struggles to do at the world level? It's really hard to run away from people from the front. We'll see if he can do it. It's going to be amazing. Keep coming back every day. Sign up for the Supporters Club. WatchRun.com/subscribe. Go to our shoe review site, betterrunningshoes.com. Thank you. We love you. Until tomorrow. Good night.
Like us on YouTube.
Like and Twitter.